But yeah,
Ready, steady, go.
Go.
Hello, darkness. My old friend,
yes,
we come to podcast here again.
we have the dreadliest one.
We were Paxers, as you can see, I finally got my haircut
Thank goodness.
just now over at Supercuts right next door.
Oh, is it super? Oh, I think it was Great Clips.
Yes, great clips.
Supercuts, Great Clips,
I
Sport
don't-
Clips.
they're
All the
kinda
clipping,
same to me.
pretty much.
Anyway, got my haircut finally.
You're presentable.
Thank you.
We can finally take you out again.
Thank you. And then we started discussing grooming.
Yes.
And we both we were chuckling ever so slightly about Hello Kitty trying to deny that he is groomed himself. Now that he's all skinny faced,
and he looks good. Looks good.
He looks good, but he's adopted the Doa look, and that's why
I'm neither going to confirm, deny. I'm not weighing in on that one.
he's Doa Kitty now.
Well,
He's your kitten.
It is part of our guerrilla marketing campaign for Doa Kitty 2020. Be the bacon.
Yeah, did you see that? I saw that. There's several guys out there. You guys should form a political ticket, not running for real office, I guess, running for the bacon.
It would, yeah. I mean, I don't know how we could possibly run for real office, although I do intend to write myself.
It'd have to be national office.
Right.
Actually, the only office you could run together for would be president. Right. I'm not sure you want to do that.
I don't.
But I don't know how South Kakalaki works, south of McDougal, but north of McDougal, the governor and the lieutenant governor,
they don't even have to be the same party.
Often are not, and they're not right now.
Yeah. So, I
don't think they have to be as president and vice president.
I don't think they have to be. No,
I think that's just something that's evolved.
It's just the way that we've done it.
Right, running as a ticket has evolved.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's because and it behooves those in power to stay in power by having people that don't necessarily know one way or the other to run and vote party. And so they want you just, hey, our party believes this. This is the straight party line.
Right.
Just vote for all these people because we promise they're doing the things that we say that you want to believe in.
I find that convenient. I don't really.
I don't agree with it.
Want to dig into what the two guys were running for commissioner of agriculture.
I'm not going to follow that platform closely.
This guy's deeply into sorghum.
Sure.
I won't have it.
I'm an oat man. Oats only, soy only.
I won't have it. The judges run by party. They didn't for a while. Now they do in North Carolina. And I'm like, I don't know.
That seems out of sorts to me, but what do I know?
Well, I think you want to know their leanings, but I mean, I have tried many, many cases and before judges that I'm assuming were Democrats or whatever, Republicans, whatever. And I've never.
It's never really come up.
Never come up.
Because the law is the law.
Well,
to some degree.
But they have personal biases maybe like we all do. That might,
Yeah, tend for them to interpret or lean one way.
Sure.
Sure.
But, I think judges, in, my experience as a lawyer, they do a really good job setting aside their personal stuff. This is on our level, now at the, the national level, and now we're embroiled in another interesting associate Supreme Court justice. Surprisingly, of course, the departing Justice Ginsburg was a person of the left.
Yep.
Put on the bench by Bill Clinton, if I recall, in 1993.
That could be. I don't know. Yeah.
And now the person that will replace her will very likely be nominated by President Trump, who's Republican.
It seems like it's going that way.
And there's a Republican Senate, and will quite likely confirm.
I don't pretend like I'm going to know how in the world that is all going to happen.
I understand the list of potential substitutes or replacements for Justice Ginsburg will be what a lawyer would call a constitutionalist, I guess, or textualist. In other words,
okay,
the law is written when it's written. You have to interpret it that way. You can't say, "Oh, what do you got? What would these guys think it means today if they were alive?" So,
okay, so more of a kind of a literalist to how it was written, like a commander's intent, kind of a
more like that they didn't know when they wrote this, that we'd have this.
Okay.
But this is probably what
this is what they would have thought,
right?
Had this been a thing back
That's the idea of the living, breathing Constitution. That seems to be more of a concept of the left, I guess, than the right. The right would tend to be more of a textualist,
which would be a little more to the
says what it says.
Okay.
Says what it says.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But you think the list right now looks like it will be more of the interprety kind, or
No,
it'll be the other way.
way.
Yeah, that's what I would think for
and the other thing that you hear about Supreme Court justices is whether they're activist or not. And that doesn't mean
I have heard that.
That doesn't mean they're
not out protesting. But
no, that's funny. I didn't think of that. I thought about like go on a treadmill or something. No, it means that they are more open to the concept of legislating from the bench. In other words, someone who's not a more conservative, I guess, justice would be, well, look, that's Congress's job, and it's our job to determine whether or not this particular law that either Congress or a state has enshrined into its law, whether or not that conforms to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. But we're not supposed to rewrite it, or we're not supposed to write any law.
That's not our...
We don't make law.
We interpret it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how it all shakes out.
It's going to be interesting.
Oh, my goodness.
But I'll say this, and only this. What a lie. I'll say this.
He'll say this and only this for one more minute.
Whoever it is not going to matter in your daily lives, brothers. Still going to have to go out doing about the business you're going to do.
And that's, we've discussed that concept here before, but man, if you would just stick to the 3 Ps,
just stick to it, man.
Don't spend that you can influence, right?
Don't spend a lot of man energy worrying about who the Supreme Court justices are, because you know what? They ain't worrying about who you are.
Ain't that the truth?
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you've been to law school, as I have been, and you would be able to say with quite assurance, regardless of where they are politically or whatever, it's probably guaranteed that there's 9, because there's 9 justices, mm-hmm. 1 chief and 8 associates are probably the strangest people you're ever going to have met in your life if you ever sat down with one.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what's all this business? And I don't want to get too deep into it. And so if this opens up a can of worms, just say we're not going to talk about that right now. But
well, luckily for you, I'm like a carpenter.
How's that?
Meaning, like, the law to me is like a saw and a hammer and a level and a
right.
I'm not capable of deep interpreting that.
Okay, fair.
No, like, so if you're gonna
I got you. No. Just I've heard all this stuff about like
one man I can guarantee is never going to be Supreme Court justice. He has 2 thumbs.
That's right. This idea of expanding the court. Have you heard that?
Oh, adding justice.
Adding justices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, in the Constitution, there's no specific set number. And I think, for the first half of the 1800s, it was less, like 5 or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. So, and in the modern era, it's always been 9.
Yeah.
And then President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, not Theodore Roosevelt, FDR, during the New Deal had came up with this thing. I forget exactly what it was called. Something he tried to pass through, and I think it set prices. Oh, okay. He had several things that got rejected by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional, and he announced his intention to add justice because the Supreme Court was, I guess, more of the conservative, variety in the early 30s, and wasn't moving fast enough for him. So
he's like, you know what we ought to do,
and that was called packing the court.
Yeah, that's the term. Yeah,
and I don't think he ever got around to it. He's wise, people talked him out of it.
Right.
But I think the number 9 is statutory. I know it's not constitutional.
Yeah, it's just sort of this is kind of the way we've always done it, sort of thing.
Statutes could be amended, changed.
Yeah.
I don't believe it would take a constitutional amendment to
change that.
To change that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny, and this is
9's enough.
Good. I
think 5.
Where do you draw the? I mean,
Pell, you go to a court of appeals, you get 3.
You get 3.
Yeah.
As long as there's a tiebreaker, what? I mean, the Supreme Court, I get it. There's big and it's complicated, and you want people, you want to have enough voices in the room that it's,
right,
it's balanced. And I get that, but I think 9 is a pretty freaking good number. But
right.
But I'm not an expert on
because it's my job. I read Supreme Court opinions from time to time. It's very rare.
Sure.
That a Supreme Court opinion affects the practice of law of your average country lawyer. Very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Just
almost doesn't come up. Yeah.
Almost never. Now, criminal law a little different because they have a lot of Fourth Amendment cases, and like
sure,
that kind of stuff. But not as a commercial litigator, which is what I am.
Yeah,
just
doesn't come up.
It really comes up, So, but I've read them, and I know how to read them.
Yeah.
But I bet you the average Jamoke has not read one. And
as an average Jamoke, I can just
yeah,
go ahead and tell you.
when I hear people fighting about it,
Yeah.
of course, the big one is Roe v. Wade. People fight about that. I'm like, you ever sat down and read that thing? I mean, I had to read it in law school. I haven't touched it since then. But it's, it doesn't say exactly what people think it says.
Yeah. No, what people argue about usually is the interpretation that whatever media outlet is putting on it at that moment, is, Right. And they're arguing about that, but they think that's what it says. But who knows?
The main thing, it's funny that I hear people say, and a lot of times really smart people, actually, I would have thought this, but for law school, I haven't been a lawyer.
Sure.
If Roe v. Wade was overturned today,
okay,
right now, I'll ask somebody who's like, we got to protect Roe v. Wade. I'm like, okay, if Roe v. Wade was overturned today, what would happen tomorrow? And a lot of people will say, well, abortion will be illegal.
Yeah.
But so what do you say? What do you think the answer to that question is?
Well, I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not being glib.
No, that's right.
I truly have no idea, and I've never really paid that much attention.
Well, the answer to the question, the short answer is nothing. So if Roe v. Wade was overturned today, tomorrow, the matter of abortion is a matter of state law. Whether abortion is criminalized or not would be a state decision. The overwhelming majority of law is state law, not federal law. So let's say tomorrow or today, Roe v. Wade is overturned. We're like, oh wow, what the hell are we gonna do? Right? Let's run around, right? Some states all that would mean is that the states would be free to criminalize it to the degree that
if they wanted to.
If they wanted to.
Okay.
So in a state, I'm just going to take a guess here, New York, California.
Oh, sure.
Vermont.
I don't know where.
It
just
would
random guess.
Zero change.
Yeah.
Right. Texas,
probably.
Alabama, right.
Mississippi. South khaki
would likely criminalize abortion up to and including in cases of rape.
Yes.
I mean, they just criminalize across the board. Right. I'm just guessing.
No. Well, and that's a reasonable guess. Right. And I think what you said before about what most people would say as to what would happen, I think that's probably accurate too. Right?
And then in the middle, states like North Carolina, which are, seem like they're balanced. Purplish would probably criminalize it to some extent or make, or
they would certainly
restrict it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to have 15-year-old kids out there doing that without consent of their parents, and blah blah blah.
Sure,
right.
And there might be states that say no abortion but for rape or incest, where there's typical ones, or health of the
health of the mother. Yeah,
but the states would make those determinations, and hopefully that would reflect the will of the citizens of the state. So
theoretically,
right, but it wouldn't.
But nothing happens tomorrow.
Nothing happens tomorrow, and ultimately, I would say, not knowing much about politics myself, nothing much happens really.
Yeah, across the board. Like so many people playing the short game in my mind.
I just think that, and here's my bias, is I blame the media for not doing a very good job. And that's not everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people that do, but particularly national media doesn't do a very good job. And I don't mean they don't do a good job of covering things. And I think that
we've gotten a little away from reporting to editorializing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to actually, that might be true. I was going to say they're not thorough.
And I think that's,
I guess this one,
I think that I won't disagree, but I think that's a result of the fact that, we're just not going to talk about all the things because they don't fit what we, and that's true across the board. But anyway, you know what? None of that has anything to do with rolling the open.
So let's do that.
All right, let's do that.
We're back. It's good to be back.
And it's good.
You're listening to 43 Feet, a podcast about leadership. We believe that real leading happens out front, but that means you're probably building the next 43 feet of good road for those behind you while you're running the race yourself. My name is Frank Schwartz, known in the gloom of the early morning as Dark Helmet to my F3 brothers, and I'll be joined every week by some of the greatest leaders I can find in F3 and beyond. We're going to answer your questions, pontificate wildly, teach virtuous leadership, and otherwise attempt to help you navigate the next 43 feet.
You are wearing the Go Ruck F3 Nation Heavy shirt.
Yes.
I am wearing underneath my Adidas pullover, which I wear every single day, like Steve Jobs.
Yeah. Which you're basically Steve Jobs. Grow Ruck. Let's see, 11/19. That's November. That would have been Sandhills?
Was that really?
Is that what that was? Was that Sandhills? Or was that
Blur?
November.
I don't know. I got 100 of them. Or 17 of them.
Every bit of that, right? But there's a swath of them right in the middle here that all look identical basically on the
Yeah,
front, and they're different on the back.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't often know.
I got a stack of them. I
Yeah.
wear them all the time.
I know.
I'm a believer. Also, issued to me this morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
From Coco.
Coco.
Who's the Nantan of F3 Salt Lake, is a distinctive sticker. So I got a sticker on the back.
Yes,
I have to decide where to affix this, but I certainly will fix it.
And funny, and I didn't think about it, but then actually I met Coco on Said Heavy.
Oh,
yeah, that was not intentional.
He's a Provo native.
He is not a Provo native. He's a Churham guy
who moved
to the Salt Lake area, yes, to work for Intermountain Healthcare, which is a very large and prestigious healthcare company.
Some call it the atrium of Utah.
It could be likened unto the atrium of Utah.
For those of you who are not denizens of the New Jerusalem or North Carolina in general, atrium is a giant healthcare system. It started in Charlotte, spread itself out everywhere,
all over everywhere,
swallowing.
Yep.
Country
and
hospitals
is similar-ish out that way.
Okay.
So he took a job out there, and he said, "Hey, I want to plant some F3 out here," and they are growing like weeds. And I've been out there and visited them a couple times. And
man, I see some great. I'll tell you what. Every single time I see a picture from those guys, it's just. I mean, Utah is just unbelievably.
It really is
picturesque.
Yeah, it really is. It is. It's so different than here, it's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Various members of my staff are walking behind me, and every time I do, I say, "Oh, who's that?"
They're like, "Oh, the boss is facing the other way. We can walk out right behind him." No one will know.
Darkness. Yep. But I can see the reflection in darkness.
In his eyes,
the limpid pools of his eyes. All right, so I got a quick butcher's word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I'll bite.
At the behest of my law partner, Dr. Jones. I began watching Ted Lasso.
I'm not familiar.
Ted Lasso on
it sounds like a Western
on Apple TV.
Oh, okay.
It is not a Western. Here's the improbable backstory.
I'm ready.
Ted Lasso, American football coach, coach of the.
Is this real? Is there really a guy named Ted Lasso?
No, it's the show.
Okay, well, I didn't know if it was like based on some guy named Ted Lasso who's actually an American football coach. I wouldn't know.
No, and when you hear the rest of this,
okay, go ahead.
You'll know.
All right, American football coach, go on.
Like a Division II team, somewhere in Wyoming, quits his job after winning a national championship, like a Division II national championship.
Okay.
Excuse me. Takes a job coaching an English Premier League soccer team. Yes, different sport. Although they call it football.
It's football.
That's it. And there's various reasons. I don't want to give you too many spoilers for why he wants to do it.
Okay.
Why he thinks it makes any sense. He's got a sidekick, like an assistant coach he takes with him, who doesn't know anything about soccer either. And they go to, I guess, a real town. It's called Richmond is the town. Sure. I don't know if that's a real team or real town. There's probably a Richmond in England because there's one here. So, right. And begins coaching this English Premier League team. He has zero knowledge of the game. Doesn't know the game at all. Had never played it. Doesn't know it.
How did they? Okay.
So
it's a show. Okay, I got it.
Anyway, the reason why they hire him to do it is for those of you remember the movie Major League. The owner hated the team and wanted to destroy it. It was a woman hated the team. So the woman
hires, trying to kill it.
Yeah, this is not too much of a spoiler because it comes out like the first 5 minutes.
Right.
But she literally hires a guy who's comically unprepared to succeed to punish her ex-husband from whom she took the team in a bad divorce. So she brings in this guy, Ted Lasso.
Got it.
And he's the actor. I have a little trouble with these actors because their names is Jason
Sudeikis.
A lot of letters in there.
Yeah. He did Saturday Night Live stuff and very funny.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He's got a big mustache.
Okay.
And he plays a guy, I think from Kansas.
Okay.
Oh, I know. The team's in Wichita. So Wichita College.
Oh, okay.
So
even better.
Yeah. So he's just got
a good old Midwestern.
Got all these
homilies.
He's funny, and the Brits just hate him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just hate him. They call him wanker. They're angry as hell that he's there. And his whole coaching thing is basically I can coach any sport,
right?
Because at this level, I'm not coaching the skill. I'm coaching the teamwork, and teamwork's always the same. That's he doesn't say that, but that becomes.
But that's sort of his
So he figures out who the key guys on the team are, like the natural leaders,
Right.
and wins them over.
With colloquialisms.
Yeah,
yeah,
partly, but partly he figures them out.
Yeah,
he figures out what makes them tick, what their desires are. He figures out how to motivate them, and like a couple of them are aware that it's happening.
Okay.
And are reluctant and mad about it. You're not going to do that to me.
Yeah.
And like, but he does.
I've got your number.
That's right. I've got your number. You see what you're doing here. And he just slowly, and the reason why I like it, and I'm recommending it as Butcher's word here, is it's a really weird offbeat leadership study.
Yeah. Okay.
It's and about group leadership. So like there's this kind of goofy equipment manager nobody listens to, and they stuff them in dirty, sock drawers and stuff.
Wedgies.
But this guy knows a lot about soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets a lot of information from this guy.
So Lasso's hitting.
He just gets information. Like he'll walk down the street and some fans will yell at him, and he's like, "Well, what do you think we should do?" And they're like, "You really want to know? Besides going and jumping out?" And he's like, "Besides all that, yeah, I really." He's got a Southern accent. He's like, yeah, really, tell me what I should do. I mean, I'm just trying to win. Tell me what I should do.
Yeah.
If you really want to know what you should do, you should play this guy more forward, wing, backwards. And
they just lay it out.
They lay it out, and he's like,
all right,
man, that sounds reasonable. I'm going to talk to my boss about that.
That's hilarious.
And he knows everybody's name.
So then pretty soon the country loves him.
He knows
ALR.
He knows everybody's name. He remembers their stories. He talks to everybody. He never loses his temper. He except in the exact right moments. He slowly, inexorably turns the morale, because it's not a talent problem. The team's not doing well.
Right.
It's a morale problem, a leadership problem.
Yeah.
And that's what he solves.
Which usually is the problem.
So I binged it.
Yeah.
He binged it.
You loved it.
Hey, well, shit. One show after another.
You didn't leave the couch. You just kept watching it.
Yeah. Didn't I?
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting. Right. That's not bad.
Right.
You're pretty good. I mean, you don't have a lot of voices, but that one's not bad.
Yeah, I do what I can do.
Ugh.
I do
what I can do.
I'm so jealous of Dark's hair and his ability to his mimicry is it's crazy good.
That way,
it's crazy good.
I'm only good at two things: brushing my hair and pretending I'm Jamie Vance Rosemary.
Nailed. Period. Period.
I don't know how far it'll get me in life, but
so I watched that.
Yeah.
Beginning and end, I would. It's a high recommendation.
I love it, and that's Apple.
So
that means another
Apple
thing I have to
TV.
subscribe to.
It's free for a year.
Oh,
because I got it to watch movie Tom Hanks in where he's in the Navy.
Tom Hanks
Dog
in the Navy.
something.
You don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, it's really good too.
Yeah.
That was in a previous Butcher's Word. I think we talked about that.
Probably was.
Greyhound.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I do. Enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. So I got it just to watch that, and I watched that. And
then you're like, well, I got it for a year. Man, right?
But Jones is like, man, you got to watch it. You love Ted Lasso. It's right up your alley. I'm like,
Jones is a Midwestern kind of down home colloquial kind of guy.
He's Charlotte royalty.
He really is.
Yeah, born, raised, bred, never left.
That's what he's a big deal around here.
That's what we say, man.
That is, I like that. It's funny. I we quit cable. Gosh, I don't even remember how many years ago.
You cut the cable?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's bad. Right. My kids don't even understand what commercials are because they've never seen one until recently. Now everybody's kind of sneaking some in at the beginning or in the middle or something. But the whole idea of a commercial break is beyond them. They don't understand. Like, you can't fast forward that. I don't like. What?
Yeah, we don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
Skip.
Yeah. So it's been at least that long.
Skip.
So
skip.
Siri, what's going on around here? Yeah. But now with all the different services where it's like, oh, $8 for this one, $9. Pretty soon I'm like.
Right back where
I was. Yeah.
But you got what you want.
But that is true. And that is the big difference.
Right.
That is the big difference. You get what you want, and you can watch it when you want.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about as many commercials.
Very much so. Very much so.
It is a good deal all the way around. And yet it is just kind of funny how we thought, oh, look at it, we're saving $100 a month or whatever it is. But here we are.
So book-wise, I'm like marching through.
I was just going to ask where you are in the old Perrys. I saw some more tweets.
I'm on book 6 of 55 or something.
It's a long haul.
It's a long haul. But
I really liked the one you did. Now I'm struggling to remember exactly because you put a couple of them out there.
Yeah, because I'm discovering. See if I can just dial that up real quick.
Right.
I'm discovering all this weird philosophy
embedded in Perry Mason.
Embedded in here. And of course, maybe they have no interest in anyone else because they're really kind of lawyerly. But
No,
I think
I
they're
don't know.
broader than.
I think they're broader because I read them and think, man, that is a good, that is a very interesting way to look at commitment.
Yeah, the guy who wrote these things,
clearly a genius.
Because the character is different in from the
TV show?
old TV show.
Yeah.
Certainly from the HBO series that just came out. It's different. Here it is.
Sure.
I'll read this.
There you go, yeah.
Perry, this is his, if you remember the characters, Paul Drake is his investigator.
Okay.
You're a cross between a boy and a philosopher, an impractical, hard-hitting visionary, a damned altruistic cynic, a credulous skeptic, and a damn it, how I envy you and your outlook on life. I want somebody to tell me that.
I was just going to say, and I know the reason you tweeted that because I thought Dredd read that and he was like,
I want to be that.
That's me.
I want to be that.
That's
no,
me.
That's what I yearn to be.
Oh, I don't know if you're too far off.
I yearn to be that. So, and then, it's like I think I said before, I'd read a bunch of these before I went to law school. The summer in between when I was getting ready to get out of the Army, I don't know why I just started reading them. I read a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't read all of them. And now, having practiced law 25 years later, whatever, I can really appreciate them a lot more.
Yeah. Well, now you can read them in a much different context,
right,
with a lot more experience.
But if you've read Free to Lead, the whole spiel we go on about Jack Reacher, and this is kind of like male porn, which is this idea of having this idiosyncratic loner, who's
just does whatever he wants.
He's mission driven, does not subject himself to the trappings of a normal life that would dull his edge and cause him to compromise his purpose.
Answers to no man, nor any institution.
That I didn't realize it because when I was reading this the first time, I hadn't thought of all that stuff up, but now I realize that Perry Mason is one of those guys in a long line. Travis McGee and Jack Reacher, and it's like guys just love this idea. It's like I don't have to compromise. I don't have a mortgage to pay.
Right.
I don't have car payments. I don't have a boss who's like, I should just go tell him to go jump in a lake, but I can't take that risk
because I got a family to feed.
I'm working in a job that's not right for me. I have this dream to do something else, but I can't do it because I got a kid who's got special needs. Or, you name all the things that a true him does. Right. These, when I read about some of the things I see guys doing, I'm like, that's the true him deal, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching any of these. You see these clips where these protesters are walking through the streets and they'll go up to some people eating dinner outdoors
and start yelling at them.
And you've seen them? Yeah. They're crazy, right?
Yeah, nuts.
And I keep thinking they're going to come up on somebody who's going to be the wrong guy. Then I thought, man, because these protesters always seem kind of physically out of shape and lame. I'm like, I would kind of like to be one of those guys who gets up and just like
says, you know what?
It's like you just drank my wife's beer, and now I'm going to hurt you, and for that. But I have that thought,
right?
I guess that's a masculine thought.
I think so. It's somewhat protectorate,
and
somewhat,
And then my next thought is, no, that's not what I
never do it.
Well, that's not what a real.
Well, that's what I mean. You could never do it because you've chosen a different life.
No,
you've chosen a different path.
Well, yeah, and engaging in acts of violence over disagreements, or even when someone is threatening you, we're just not allowed to do that, Frank.
I know.
That's not why we're in such good shape and doing all this stuff.
No.
Our job.
Actually, if anything, I'm getting in this kind of shape so I can avoid most of that kind of stuff.
That's right. And our job really is to slowly, as best we can, persuade. Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, I thought it was a segue.
Persuade the right way to think.
Yeah.
Because it's not right to go up and yell, scream at people who disagree with you. Or they don't even actually know. They just go up to random.
Going up to anybody.
I was like one yesterday.
Well, that's like they shouted down Rand Paul. They shouted down, like these people that actually have fought on their side. They don't care.
They don't know who they're
They're burning down the mayor's office because they don't know.
They don't know.
Whatever.
But it's not, it's, of course it makes us mad as men, but, controlling that anger, and instead of letting external circumstances drive our mood, we maintain a stability of emotion.
Yeah. Which
comes from
the pursuit of joy,
consistent pursuit of joy rather than happiness.
Yeah.
That's contentment.
Yeah.
And I would hope that if somebody got me on one of those videos, I was the same in the face of a rabid mob of protesters as I would be right now, talking to one of my great friends, Dark Helmet. I mean, because while I'm happy being
I might
with
use
you,
a little more situational awareness. But
well, I'm happy being with you, and I'd be unhappy having to face.
Fair. But you'd have the same level of joy.
I'd have the same level of joy. I would hope.
Certainly try.
Because for a long time, I've been seeking joy rather than happiness.
Yeah. I listened to, I never listened to Joe Rogan until.
I never have a single time.
Really?
No.
I
went to, and I was like 3 hours long. I don't have that.
I just, it's the commute, and I'll just, I just sort of chip away at it, over time. It took me like 2 weeks to listen to one episode, but there was someone that I really wanted to listen to, a particular person that I really wanted to listen to, and I listened to that one with that person, and I was like, man, I kind of get why people really dig this podcast. And so I went, I listened to another one.
Sure.
So I've only listened to like 2 or 3 now because they're so freaking long. But,
right.
But this one with Tim Ferriss, I don't know if you heard, or Tim Kennedy. Sorry, Tim Kennedy.
Oh, I thought you said Tim Ferriss because
nope.
As of 3 days ago, I had never heard the name Tim Ferriss.
And then
that was number 2. He's the 4-hour work week guy.
Yeah. But
that's not who.
That's not who. I apologize. I sometimes, because I'm like, oh, good leadership.
That freaked me out there for a second.
Sorry. No, okay. Tim Kennedy. He's a special forces ranger, special ops, sniper, all kinds of
never heard of
crazy stuff. He fought in the MMA.
Well, so I don't know anything about the MMA.
Well, and there's no reason why you would, right?
Well, I might be interested in it, but I'm not.
Yeah, no.
Or never have been. Might be.
In fact, that's probably the only sport that I actually watch and follow even slightly.
The only MMA fighters I can name are Ronda Rousey, of course.
Sure.
And Conor McGregor.
Conor
McGregor.
He's got no interest in your... Oh, you'll eat my Lucky Charms. No, that's horrible. No, I will. Well, we can get a big.
But I don't know Tim Kennedy. But you're saying Tim Kennedy's he's a Yank.
Tim Kennedy is a Yank.
He's from California. He's got an Irishy name, is why.
I see. No, but he's probably one of the truest Americans. I mean, just a true patriot, gets it. Just amazing human being. But he was talking about, and he said he was talking about protesters and all this kind of stuff, because he's very much a believer, whether he knows it or not, in F3 philosophy. I would say he doesn't know it. But in the sense that
he knows what he believes, he just doesn't realize that
that it happens to coincide,
that we copied it and said it first or something.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
Good.
But because he was only 12 when F3 came to be.
Fair, Mr. Kennedy.
But physical training of the body, watching what you eat, and he's like, and they talked a fair amount about it because Joe Rogan is a pretty fit man as well, and seeks to be healthy.
He's part of his thing, right?
Yeah, that's part of his deal.
Right. Philosophy.
And he owns some Onnit. He's a part owner in Onnit, which is a big fitness company.
Is that similar to CrossFit?
No, it's more gear.
Oh, gear. Okay.
Yeah, it's more gear. Right. Although they do some workouts and stuff. They
on it, like get on it,
like ONNIT. But that's neither here nor there. The point being that Kennedy was talking about the fact, he goes, I want to walk up to these folks, and he made a similar comment. He's like this pear-shaped woman who is just so angry,
right,
that she yells, "I don't give a crap." Not crap. If a fascist died tonight.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't even think she believes that. But he's like, this person who's been so out of control of their life for so long finally has a megaphone and a bunch of other people who are willing to give her, click like.
I hadn't thought of that.
And that sort of thing. And so there's just the rage that they're, spilling over has nothing necessarily to do with even the causes that they claim to espouse, but it just has the fact that no one's ever listened to me. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere. I've never been able to discipline my life. I've never felt like I'm in control of anything in my life. And now suddenly I can look and go, people believe the same thing I believe. And you know what? I'm just going to yell it. I don't even care if I believe it. Doesn't matter. Right. And he says, what I want to do is similar. He says, part of me wants to walk up and just, Tim Kennedy makes people disappear for a living. That's part of what he does for the Army. Right. And, but he says, what I really want to do with them is I want to take her on a walk, grab her hand, take her on a walk around the block. And then I want to recommend a couple meals for her. And then tomorrow I want to walk 2 blocks. And then I walk, like in the same kind of thinking and philosophy.
So, we have 2 emotions, right?
Yeah.
The emotion of now and the emotion of the emotion. It's not emotion. We have 2.
No, but 2 states.
We have 2 states. The emotion of now and the truth of later, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm making this up as I go.
No, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I watch one of those videos, or I'm in a situation, whatever. I have an emotional reaction to it, and it kind of hovers in there.
Yep.
And then I have, of course, what I believe is the timeless things, the things that ever were, and the things that always are.
Yes.
And then, of course,
capital T truth.
Right, because of my belief system, I foresee myself standing at the feet of Jesus, having to account for everything I've done and haven't done while in the body. Yeah. And I don't want to say that I took some 23-year-old pudgy kid and slammed his face into the table. I mean, there's no call for it, even though, well, you know, I mean,
you don't want to account for that, but you also don't want to, I think you also want to be able to say,
I tried.
Even though I had that emotion, I looked the other way and I turned the other cheek as was directed to me.
Right.
And I took that guy by the hand and I said, hey man, you're angry and I get it. And you've been hurt many, many times over. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. I mean, you've done it. Look, you've done it. You've done it.
I've tried.
You sat in the guy, and I can't remember his name. And so tell me his name when I describe, the guy at the Poppies. And he says, well, I want a mentor.
Yeah.
You could have easily said, well, I think you should find you one, and gone right back to reading. Am I right?
Yeah. Well,
but instead you looked up and you said,
I did actually for a day. It took me a day to
that's fine. Yeah. God doesn't care when you do it. It ain't like you got to pay back taxes on your goodness. Am I right?
Well, let's put it this way. There's a right path and a wrong path. And
fair.
I think,
and I try and cross it as often as I can. It's a good one.
When I see discontented people, and that's clearly what they are.
Right.
Right. Some kind of circumstance has bothered them so much that they're enraged.
Yes.
That's a lifetime of seeking of happiness has led them to where they are, right?
I keep eating these Twinkies and I never get full and I never get in shape and I don't understand. And now I'm mad.
That's right. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't care who the president of the United States is or who the Supreme Court. I'll say this: it's not that important to me.
Fair. And
I'm not entirely sure that who I want in the moment is the right person.
Sure. Fair.
And I think there's a lot of things in the Bible about how God's in control of that too. That gives me contentment because I know, well, look, it's my job as an American.
Yeah.
Not my job. It's my right to go cast a vote.
Sure.
If you don't want to cast a vote, I don't.
Okay.
Whenever people say, well, everyone's got to vote, I'm like, I don't know why you say that. When I walk in a voting booth and I make a decision, I say, who is the person most suited to do this particular job? If I know, Secretary of Agriculture, some I may not know, Commissioner.
Right. Sure.
And who is most likely to do it in the way that I view that you should do it. And I'm basing that on the Constitution.
Sure.
So basing that on what
I believe to be the
Article 2 says the job of the president, sets it out in detail, and this is what he's supposed to do, and what he's not supposed to do, and But to me, whether the guy wins or not, it doesn't affect my joy. I mean, it doesn't affect.
It doesn't need to.
And if it doesn't mean anything actually. It just means that I did what I exercised my right as a citizen, and pull the lever. So a word that always kind of throws me off is they say, well, you're a supporter of this president or that president. I'm like, not really a supporter. I voted for the guy, maybe.
I'm a voter of.
I don't put political signs in my yard unless I know the guy.
Right.
So, like Mighty Albate ran for mayor and stuff.
A couple times, yeah.
And I also, if you ask for money, I'd give him money.
Sure.
Scrappy ran for judge.
Yep.
And I, donated to his campaign, and I would have put a sign in he wasn't in my.
I couldn't vote for him.
Yeah, I couldn't vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
But here's another weird thing. I was telling the guy this morning. I might give a guy money and put the sign in the yard and not vote for him. I might support him but not vote for him.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I
don't know what.
let's say somebody I profoundly disagree with his viewpoint. Like I think there's a better guy, but I know him and I respect his character, and he's my friend. And he says, "Can I put a sign in your yard?" I'm probably going to say, "Yeah."
Sure.
And if he says, "Will you support me?" and I say, "What does that mean?" He says, "Will you donate to my campaign?" I say, "Yes."
Sure.
He said, "Do I have your vote?" And I said, "I'll think about that."
Yeah.
And then I may not vote for a guy.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I guess that's not. The guy said that too this morning. Said that's
abnormal.
crazy.
I don't know about crazy, but it's abnormal.
I don't know. To me, that's perfectly normal.
Well, but you're.
It's the other way that doesn't make any sense to me.
You're abnormal.
I guess. I guess.
But to your point,
because I guess I'm content.
Well, but here's the thing: you're content.
I'm
but
content.
Also,
like
because you're not playing the short game all the time, and that's the thing is I have to support this guy, and I have to vote for this guy, and I have to, or I'm therefore against him, or whatever. That's short-term thinking. It's like I got a poster that hangs on the wall in my office that says "Always play the long game." You're thinking the long game, right? And the long game is whether or not this guy gets elected, you still love him. It's just like you were talking about the other day when you were like, well, I don't necessarily believe in what you're saying, brother, but I believe in you.
Yeah, right. Right.
So
that's fair.
I think that's similar. Yeah.
That's fair. And I think that that's why the Declaration of Independence says life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Right. So the government protects your life.
Right.
Hopefully. Your liberty, so we're free
hopefully
free from the bounds of foreign potentates like the British. Yeah, right. So liberty, and then pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
It
doesn't guarantee you happiness.
It doesn't guarantee you happiness. It just makes some space for you to go chase it yourself. Although I'll tell you, you're probably not going to get it if that's your goal. Well, you might get joy. I'm
going to say, and who knows what they meant by happiness when they wrote it, whether or not it fit the F3 lexicon of happiness, right? But
sure.
The point being that you're right. You can, in that pursuit, in that chasing, hopefully what you find is you do find that contentment. You do find that long lasting, I describe it sometimes to guys as groundedness, an inner peace, if you will. It's that sense that, hey man, to your point, whoever gets elected, November 4th or 3rd, or when's election day? November 3rd.
Right.
So theoretically, if November 4th, we actually know who the president's going to be, that has nothing to do really with whether or not I call, Slaughter in the morning and talking about something's going on in his life.
Right.
I didn't do anything for, I don't know. I mean, does it affect my life? It will in some way or other. Sure.
Tell me the truth. Do you think that it's weird that
probably, but go ahead.
We've included contentment as one of our 5 C leadership virtues? Because I'm pretty certain that
is not one that's on the list of most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's weird?
I'll say this. I don't know how I took it the first time I read it, because I don't really remember the first time I read it and how I took that. And especially back then, I probably was just taking it all in fire hose style. Like, I don't even know what the hell he's talking about outside. I will say now that I feel very certain and have spoken on it in front of many groups now, that it's one of the things you have to have. And here's why I kind of say that, and we've talked about it a little bit here before. So do I think it's weird from a cultural sense? Yeah, probably, because that's not who we think of as leaders. We think of guys like, no political commentary here, right? We think of guys like Donald Trump as a leader. He's a leader. He is leading right now. Right?
You think of him as a leader.
The culture.
The culture does.
The culture.
I know you don't.
No.
Yeah.
But that's
okay. You mean
the culture? Yes.
Well, okay. The culture speaks of him as a leader.
Fair.
Right.
But I think that's what they look at and they go, well, I guess that's what leading is. I think they've resolved themselves to the fact that these are the kind of men, these completely out of control, completely.
Oh, okay.
I think they're looking at that and going, well, I guess this is what leadership is. And they've sort of thrown up their hands. And so I think they would look at contentment. I think they would look at contentment and think, yeah, that's weird because, he's not happy. He doesn't look happy. He looks angry all the time. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's for virtuous leadership. I think it is 100% essential.
Why do you think? Why?
Why?
Yeah. So from the perspective of the led, you're looking at a leader, and so I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. When I look at someone who's in a position like that, and I say, am I going to follow this guy?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get to.
And he's discontented.
Mm-hmm.
And that means something to me.
Yep.
And in the inverse, if he's contented, it means something to me. Why for you? What does it mean either way?
So somebody threw something out to me a long time ago, and it stuck in my little brain and has rattled around ever since, right? And it said, never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with.
That's really good, yeah.
Right? And honestly, it's funny because the business consultant that was working with me at the time, he gave me that advice. And then I looked at his life and I was like, oh, well, you're fired.
Right.
It was not as intended point, but that's never take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with. And so I hope this answers the question, but when I look at the men that I want to emulate, or the leaders that I look at and go, that's a good leader, that's the kind of guy I want to emulate, I want those behaviors in my life. I see how I think you have to have contentment as one of those leadership virtues, because by golly, I think that's the desired end state, is joy.
Yeah. Okay.
And in fact, not to get too far off in the weeds or whatever, but we have, scripture in some of our modern day scripture that we believe in. There's scripture in there that says very clearly, Adam fell that men might be, and men are that they might have joy. Like it couldn't be more clear. And so to me, that is the desired end state. And so I think a leader must have that, because if that's where I'm headed, that's who I want to follow. And honestly, Dave, that's not to get weird again, but that's part of why I was like, be my stone, man. Because I look at that centeredness, that groundedness, that feeling of, I don't need to apologize for anything. I know who I am. I know what I believe. That's the guy I want to follow. I don't want to follow some guy who's going to turn on a dime or blow with the political wind. I don't want anything like that. So there's that consistency element.
Yeah.
But what is he consistent about? Look, he'll never hear this, so I don't have to feel too bad about it. My dad is the only thing that's consistent about him is the fact that he's completely inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get in any given moment. So consistency, fine, but consistency toward what end? Contentment. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, that's got to lead to you work this consistent behavior so that you land at contentment, so that you land in that centeredness, that groundedness.
I think if you're a leader who's consistently pursuing joy, is playing what you call the long game.
Yeah. That's what I'm.
And he's not settling along the way for like jolts of happiness. It's kind of like, it's like a pixie stick. It's an emotional pixie stick. Remember pixie sticks?
Oh yeah.
For you millennials, it's basically a cardboard tube full
of just a sugars. Imagine a straw.
That's right.
Full of sugar.
So the worst thing you give a kid, right? Yeah. So, but I think that following leaders who are seeking emotional pixie sticks, I don't trust the guy
at all.
I don't trust him to stay the course of the principles that govern whatever organization that we're part of, like, whatever group rather we're part of, whether it's a community organization or a team. It's that along the way, if he loses heart, becomes unhappy, he'll seek happiness somewhere.
He will look for the next emotional pixie stick.
That's right. And then, in so doing, compromise the long-held principles which require joy to achieve, because, each given day you may not get there. And that's why I wanted to include it as one of the virtues, because I myself have never trusted a discontented leader.
Yeah.
Now, along those lines, that doesn't mean complacency. Someone who's like,
don't mistake that.
Right. That's not that bullfroggy vision. So
there's no joy in complacency.
Right. There isn't. That's right. But I think a lot of people sometimes confuse complacency and contentment. Sure. But I want to be.
It's that comfort zone lie, right?
Yeah, exactly. I want to follow leaders that are content in the sense that it's joy that they seek, but they're not complacent and they think they've arrived someplace themselves.
Yes.
That they're constantly urging the group of which they are a leader, constantly urging that group to accelerate to advantage for all involved within the guiding principles that the group is based upon.
Yeah.
So for us, for example, for F3, if I suddenly came running in a room and said, all right, I just had this great idea. We can start charging for workouts and we can get money. We can do this. What are we going to do with that money? We're going to build this huge, rescue center for all. It's like a good thing.
Yeah, sure.
Right. We're going to go rescue all the turtles on the ocean, right? All the turtles that lay eggs, right?
Right.
Well, we're going to start charging for workouts.
Guys are
you're like, but why?
Yeah.
But why?
That's because that's what I want to do.
Like, but you guys wouldn't say why. You'd say that violates the first core principle.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I'd say, well, I don't care. Why? Why? Because I want that feeling of happiness, like being able to cut it.
I did something.
I did something.
Yeah. Well,
right. And that is a discontented leader seeking pixie sticks, emotional pixie sticks of happiness, rather than the good, the meat, right? The nutritious, sustaining meat and vegetables, the meat and three of joy.
Right.
This is how we do it. We just make it up.
Yeah, that's going in.
That's
man.
right. Well, like
That's
you're like, when you're a kid, and your mom's like, you're like, I want a snack. Well, dinner's gonna be in an hour. I just want. You're gonna eat a bag of potato chips.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna eat a bag of happy.
I know, my wife
I'm gonna
does
lay
it all the
down.
time. She's like,
I'm gonna lay down a plate full of joy in an hour.
Right.
But you're demanding a bag of happiness right now,
and you're gonna ruin your dinner.
and you're gonna ruin your dinner.
Yep.
Seeking happiness now will ruin your joy.
Meat
In
and
the
three.
same way, you got to wait
Meat and three.
for the meat and three, my young helmet.
Indeed.
Won't you do so?
Wait for the meat and three.
Wait for the meat and three.
You by golly darn sure I will.
It takes courage. Next week.
Ah.
All right. In your room. Can I tell you something?
Yeah, please.
You still got a podcast face. You got a podcast face.
Yeah, it's
Yes, you
podcast
do.
face. Yeah. Now that people have seen it, can't say,
See, this doesn't work anymore because they can see our face.
I know. They know how extremely handsome I am.
A lot of people say it.
I know.
Now the kiddies just walking around with a Frank mask on.
Dredd.
No.
No.
No. Can I ask you to do something?
Yeah, I'll do anything for you, man.
Go do something good.
I will.
Gotta go.
You got to accentuate the positive feeling. Minus the negative. Latch on to the affirmative. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You got to spread joy up to the maximum. Bring gloom down to the minimum. Have faith or pandemonium, liable to walk upon the scene.
Thanks for listening to 43 Feet, a leadership podcast. If you have questions about F3, leadership, or anything else, write to us at questions@43feetpodcast.com. Tweet us at 43feetpodcast, or find us on Facebook at 43 Feet. While you're there, give us a follow. Also, if you like this podcast, share it with a friend, rate us, and write a review. It really does help others find us. Until next time, we'll be out here in the unknown, the uncomfortable, the difficult, the 43 feet out front.
Do you hear them?
Oh, listen to me, chillin', and you will hear about the eliminating of the negative and an accent on a positive.
Gather round me, children, if you're willing, and sit tight while I start reviewing the attitude of doing right.
You gotta accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative.